How's it going, everybody? So I'm gonna attempt to make this grinder video. It's kind of a review of the grinder I have and kind of some tips and stuff like that. And the grinder that I purchased was a Tecomec Jolly Evo grinder. And for the most part, it's been really good. There are only a couple things that I find aren't that great about it, and there are a few things that I find may be somewhat flaws, but they work to your advantage, and I'll kind of go over those in my video. But this is kind of an overall review after using the grinder for a while, and it's a relatively cheap grinder. I think it's $160 or something like that, and it's got basically the same settings that your $300-400 Oregon grinders do. And I mean, Tecomec makes the Oregon grinders too, or whatever company makes Tecomec, because I mean they pretty much use unbranded, the same parts that Oregon do. They're just unbranded, and there are a few things that I don't like. For instance, this right here, which is your depth stop, is a lot better on the Oregon grinders. So that's the biggest thing that I don't like. But I've found, as I've used this more and more, that I don't even like the depth stop anyway. I freehand the depths, so that's kind of a non-issue. But I'm gonna get this thing fired up, and then we'll set up for this chain and grind a little bit, and I'll show you some of the things I like and some of what I don't like. Be back in a second. So again, I'd like to apologize. I'm still trying to get the hang of the GoPro and learn its field of view and how it focuses and all that kind of stuff. But this is the grinder. It comes with all the stuff that your Oregon grinder does. It comes with the tool to shape the stones. There's the stone that it comes with right there to clean your grinding wheel, and that's definitely an important part. If you see that black building up on the grinding wheel, you definitely need to go in and remove it, because if you don't, you tend to burn your cutters. So I have my little shop apron here that I keep all my stuff in. Like all this stuff just fits in these pockets here, and I have easy access to it. I'm gonna mark this that way I know which one I started on. So I carry this little brush right here, and this little nylon bristle brush. I like to, on a dirty chain, I'll brush the teeth off to kind of remove some of that debris. So when I cut here, it doesn't transfer to the wheel. Now, a couple things that I like and I don't like. I like that it's a really quiet machine. I do like that point. There's just like the Oregon one, there's an LED light here. Don't like this depth stop. I like the Oregon one, which is it's a cast piece here with a stop here, and it comes down and meets this piece. That one's much better. I like the colors on the Oregon, obviously the reds, but that's, as long as it functions, that's all that matters. I don't like the the track here, mainly because this piece here doesn't hold. It's real finicky with holding your chain, and the Oregon one is much better. And the Oregon one, if I'm not mistaken, you can buy the pieces and replace this with the Oregon one, just because they basically drop in. They're built on the same chassis. Another thing I like that was a deal breaker for me, I sent an Oregon one back because of it. The manual centering. So this guide not only goes left to right, but it goes front to back for different angles on the tooth, and so you can center on your wheel as it wears out. That was the big deal breaker for me. You got to be able to keep the chain center. If you don't, then it throws all your angles off, and I find that after tweaking with this edge angle, which is basically what this front to back is the edge angle, I've concocted a really good edge that I'm very happy with. So I'll show you what that is when I start grinding. Let's see, what else don't I like? Alright, I didn't like at first that there is some give in this spring. I don't know if you can see that or not. This head has some left to right play, and I don't know if the Oregon ones do that, but that kind of was a negative at first, until I realized that left to right play kind of played to my advantage, because if you set your teeth up and you grind down, you don't necessarily get a good gullet when you do that, depending on how you have it set up and how much you're grinding out. So that left to right play actually allows you to hit the tooth, go down the tooth all the way to the left, and then pull it back right, and it allows you to sweep down the gullet and profile that gullet all the way down to the drive of the tooth. So it's a huge advantage to getting a custom profile on your teeth, and I mean I love it. It may be a flaw, but to me it plays to my advantage. So we're gonna grind a couple teeth here, just show you some little tips and tricks that I've figured out. So I like a 50-degree edge angle. A lot of them are set at 60, but I like a 50. 50 is really aggressive. Pulls really good, especially in harder wood. It gets a bit grabby sometimes in softer wood, but yeah, that's tolerable because of primarily what I'm cutting around here is hardwoods, and it's not that bad, and it's really not that bad in softwoods. It's not like rakers halfway filed off grabby. So I do a 50 degree on a 30 degree, and my edge profile is 2.5, 2.5 degrees. So on your Oregon ones, you tilt it forward and backward for your 10-degree tilt. Well, this is very similar as that, but you don't have the actual tilt. You go forward and backward, and that kind of profiles the edge there. And I've done it on a 5 and 5, and it was a little much, so I dialed it back to 2.5 degrees by 2.5 degrees, and I'm really happy with that. So I've left it there. So sometimes, because this thing don't like to grip very well, I'll grab this and I'll pull back on the chain to lock that stop in there, and then tighten it down, and it works pretty good. So I got a gap, and again, I apologize if you can't see this very well. I'm gonna go ahead and tilt you down some more. All right, hopefully that's good. Let you focus in on this. All right, so I'm a little beneath, so I'm gonna telescope me forward, lock it back in. Alright, so I'm just barely touching it right here, because this is on about a 25 degree angle, so I'm taking it back down to 30, so I'm touching the back corner before the working corner up here. So I'm gonna go in just a little bit further. Oh, that's the wrong way. And let's see what that looks like. Alright, that's perfect. So basically what I'm going to do is, and you see the difference? You see where it hits right there, and you see where it hits right there? So typically what I do is I go ahead and knock this corner off like this. And then once I get that cut down into there, I'll start doing a sweeping left to right motion to clean that gutter out, and to clean that gullet out. And another good thing about this left to right play is if you run into a tooth that's just a little bit off and you're not actually contacting the tooth here, you can push on it and you're still able to grind the tooth. So here we go. Let's do some cleaning here. Let me profile this edge real quick. And you make sure you check that and clean that off every couple chains, because you don't want to end up with the wrong profile in there. And then 38404 looks good. Clean that dust off there. Let's get to it. There we go. And another thing that helps is to make sure you get that bluntness off that working corner. See how I cleaning that gullet out, how I can, once I get it pushed back, I can go down and I'm not contacting the tooth. With that side to side play, I can now, and that air is actually cooling the tooth off, so it helps a little bit. So now with that side to side play, I can push it, contact the tooth, and then rotate kind of as a digging motion to dig the gullet out, to make sure I got a good gullet profile. Now this here, you can see how deep that goes. That's from another grinding. That wasn't me, so I just wanted to point that out. And you can see how bad the gullet is on this one, and that one's dug out too, so now what I'm looking for is I'm looking at this point right here, and I'm making sure I get that back to a crisp edge. There we go. Make sure it's got a pretty definitely point on it. I don't know who sharpened this chain last, but it wasn't very good. I know that much. Now that that's taken care of, and go down and clean that gullet out. So if you just imagine that the guy didn't screw up and take that much of the lower plate out, it would be just right. And I just want you to know that it is very difficult grinding, not standing where you are right now, because that's normally where I'm standing at. See that digging motion? And tell you what, like I said, it probably seems like a flaw, and actually is, but you know, I like to use stuff like that to my advantage. You can make it work for you, then make it work for you, you know what I mean? I don't want to make this video too terribly long, so I'm going to do a couple more of these. And if you have everything set up right, you should be able to just flip it to this side, and be sure, if you're running 2.5 degrees on this side, when you flip it, be sure to push it to the other side 2.5 degrees, because if you don't, it's going to throw everything way off. Not bad for a $160 grinder, in my honest opinion. I personally think it could hang with any of the Oregon ones, even the expensive ones. I honestly don't think it's worth all the extra money for the hydraulics. I mean, it's convenient, but it doesn't take. I guess if you're sharpening a lot of chains, maybe it helps a lot, but For someone like me who really only cuts part-time, not even part-time, just in my free time on the weekends and stuff like that, it's not cost effective for me to spend that much extra for something that's not 100% necessary. You know, that hydraulics is kind of a more of a luxury, and realistically just one more thing that could go wrong, because if you get a hydraulic leak or something, you know, then you have no lock for your chain guide here. And so I can get away with doing this. I can get away with doing this because all of my rakers are filed by hand, so it doesn't matter what my tooth length is at the end of the day, as long as my rakers are profiled correctly. This thing is gonna cut, so that's all that really matters. Maybe if I had a machine that indexed rakers, it would be a little different, but I don't. I do it all by hand. You could do it on this machine, but I don't like, for the most part, I don't like the idea of grinding half of my teeth off just because I rocked a couple teeth, so I just make sure they're sharp and they got a good profile, and then I'll use my Carlton style Husqvarna raker gauges to set the rakers of each individual tooth. Now there's all kinds of people that argue all your teeth have to be the same length and all that baloney, but realistically they don't. I don't really, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference in the smoothness of chain the smoothness of the chain, because some argue that the chain cuts better and is smoother if all the teeth are the same length, which, I mean, I can see the argument, but I don't know that it's true or not. Mainly because I'm not, I guess I could do a test to find out, but my guess is it'll be extremely minimal. And as long as you can making sure I'm not contacting my depth gauge here. And as long as the chain cuts for you, then, I mean, yeah, chatter leads to health issues, true, but a lot of your anti-vibe systems have kind of remedied most of that. So how much longer I got to go? This is a relatively long chain. I guess I still got a pretty good while to go. Alright, so I'm just going to show you. I mean, we're already at 22 minutes with me babbling too, so I just wanted to show you kind of what my profile looks like. And there it is right there. I personally think it looks just as good as a brand new chain. And I've seen the automatic ones that people are pushing online. They're like, oh, you know, this, send them in and get them sharpened. You know, you can't get no better than that. Well, in my opinion, that looks as good, if not better, than having to send your chain in and have it sharpened for, you know, $7-8 a chain. That's another one. I mean, it does a bang up job. And again, I apologize for the camera work if it's bad. And they're definitely razor sharp, man. Alright, well, hopefully this video turns out, because if it didn't, then you won't be watching it. You'll get the one that eventually turns out good once I finally get there. But I'm gonna keep sharpening this chain, and I may throw a video at the end here of this chain after it's sharpened out there cutting, so stay tuned. Alright, so I got it sharpened, and we're gonna go out here and make a couple cuts with it. The rakers are horrible looking. Like, I didn't realize it, but they're like taken way down. Whoever got a hold of this chain just they messed it up bad. But so if it looks really grabby, then it's because it is really grabby. I noticed that the 4 or 5 links were completely shot, so I pulled out my chain breaker and stuff and fixed it with, this is a JGX chain, but all I had was an LPX to spare, so it's got the couple bumper links on it, but you can see those drive links were completely ate off, so I fixed it with that other one. And here's the Carlton style raker gauge. Works great. So I sharpened and adjusted the 2 teeth that came over for me repairing the chain, and got it fixed. So we'll see. This is my 460 I got the chain on. It's been worked on by Mr. Randy over at Mastermind Work Saws. It's a really strong saw. So 28-inch bar and chain, it should pull this no issues, even with the rakers as low as they are. So we'll see. I'm gonna sit you right here and hopefully you can see that.
Get this saw chips out of here so I can see what the new stuff looks like. Told you it'd be a little bit grabby. Good chips though. Nice even chips, nothing like super crazy, but she cuts though. All right, y'all have a good one. Hope you enjoy.